All right, review session for natural selection. Question 1. What is the difference between natural selection and what's commonly referred to as evolution? So we'll just start with that before the second question then. So the difference is natural selection is something where species can get more specialized over time. So, a dog can have long hair, short hair, medium length hair in the example that we showed for this. But if the environment selects for one of those traits, in a hot environment, it would select for short hair. In a cold environment, it would select for long hair. And so via natural selection, you can get these species changing as a result of that. The environment is selecting the type of dogs that are better adapted. So that's what natural selection is. It's a rearranging, or usually it's a way of eliminating genetic information. It's a way of eliminating the unfit. And the difference between that and evolution is something where you have to gain genetic information. You have to add new DNA and things that code for stuff that wasn't there before. If you're a dog and somehow millions of years later you got to get a bird or something like that, you have to have the genetic information to code for feathers. You have to have the genetic information to code for a beak. That wasn't there before. And this is very different from natural selection. Natural selection just eliminates that genetic information. It does not create it. So they're two very, very different things. They are both, natural selection is compatible with the Bible and the scientific method. We can test it in the present. We see it happening right in front of us. But evolution has never been observed. We have never seen one type of animal changing into a different kind of animal. We see, animals changing within their kinds, but we don't see them making those big jumps or making the small changes that they would need to make those big jumps. You need to have new genetic information for that to happen, and we never ever see that occurring in the real world. Number 2, it's been said that special theory of evolution, let me finish that one then. So neither natural selection is compatible with the scientific method in the Bible. Evolution is not compatible with either of the two. Number 2, it's been said that the special theory of evolution times millions of years is equal to the general theory of evolution. What does this mean, and what is the primary error there? This means that we're observing these small changes over time, and the idea then is that if you just add up enough of these small changes over a long enough period of time, maybe you get real big changes. If you have enough of these tiny little changes occur and you've got millions of years to work with, over that huge period of time, maybe you don't even have the same kind of animal you started with. But again, this is where we have to be very specific and very careful about our terminology here. So it's not about change, all right? It doesn't matter how much change you have. What matters is the type of change you have. And when we see change occurring, we see it occurring as a result of either reshuffling genetic information, but most often it's through the elimination of genetic information. It doesn't matter how much genetic information you eliminate and how many changes you see, that will never get you in the long run brand new animals with brand new features that they didn't have the genetic information for before. So that's the primary error. We're saying this word change means both types of evolution when it can't. You need two different kinds of change, two fundamentally different kinds of change to see these two things happening. They are not the same. And this kind of leads into number 3. Scientists like to say, I know evolution is true because I see it happening in my lab. An example would be finch beaks evolving to be longer or shorter over time. This has been observed and is good, sound science. Thus, evolution is good, sound science. What is wrong with this logic? So this is a logical fallacy known as equivocation. That's something where you show how something is true, and then you pretend that truth applies to something that it's really not related to. And that's what's happening here. They're saying that the changes we're seeing in finch beaks or butterfly wings or, rat tail length or something like that, they're pretending that type of change can be applied to the idea of general evolution, where you go from one animal to another, and it can't. Again, these are fundamentally different mechanisms that need to occur for either of these two things to happen. They're very, very different. Not all change is the same. Number 4, talk about species and speciation. There are currently 8.7 million different species out there. Doesn't this contradict the Bible, especially in terms of trying to fit all those animals on the ark? And of course, this one, species and speciation, this is natural selection. You can call it natural selection, adaptation, small changes, microevolution. It's got all sorts of different names. Special theory of evolution, but it's all the same thing. It's small changes occurring within a kind of animal. But even though you have all these changes, there are limits to that. Doesn't matter how long you're going to breed dogs. At the end of it, you're still going to have a dog. Those changes will not add up to a brand new creature. And in terms of fitting all those animals on the ark, you didn't need to fit every species on the ark. You needed to fit every kind of animal. And when you use the biblical definition of kind, which is, they're reproducing after their kinds, when you go through that, you have something that most closely resembles the taxonomic family. And studies that have been done range on the number of animals being on the ark from about 6,000 to about 13,000. The most recent studies have shown that you needed about 7,000 different kinds of animals on the ark. So yeah, that's not a stretch given the size of the ark. And actually not even 7,000 kinds, 7,000 total animals, because you needed 2 of every kind. So I think there's just about 3,500 or so different kinds that needed to be on the ark. Number 5, for one kind of animal to evolve into another kind, it needs a lot of new genetic information. Is it possible this could have come from mutations? And the answer to that question is a big fat no. Mutations are things that break genetic information. Yes, they can give you new traits. Yes, sometimes, very rarely, those traits give you survival advantages, but nothing new has been created here. Whenever you see these new traits, they come about as a result of breaking genetic information. And that's what all the examples that we showed in class, and every example that I've seen for an example of evolution occurring as a result of mutations, those changes occur because you're breaking genetic information. You're corrupting it, you're eliminating it, you're not adding it or making anything better in the long run. So, there you go.